TIFU by not understanding my daughter's grief, assuming it was just sadness after her grandmother's death. My daughter always had a special connection with her grandmother. The woman practically raised her while my husband and I worked long hours. She taught her to bake, read her countless stories, and always had a comforting presence. So when her grandmother passed away a few months ago after a surprisingly quick battle with cancer, I expected my daughter to be heartbroken. What I didn't expect was the way she would internalize her grief and how I would completely miss the signs. I noticed small changes in my daughter's behavior after her grandmother's death. She stopped talking about her as much, which I thought was normal. I figured she needed time to process the loss, and bringing it up might upset her. She also became quieter and more withdrawn. I attributed this to the general sadness in the house and figured it would pass. We were all grieving, and I was probably not as attentive as I should have been. I was dealing with my own grief, and I just assumed my daughter was doing the same in her own way. I focused on getting through each day and ensuring my daughter was fed and clothed. I believed that providing a stable environment was the best way to help her cope. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. My daughter's grades began to slip. She was always a good student, but her test scores started to decline. Her teacher mentioned she seemed distracted in class. I spoke with her about it, and she said she was fine, just tired. I accepted her explanation and thought maybe she needed more sleep. I let it go. I now realize that I was avoiding addressing the deeper issue. I did not realize how much she was struggling. The change in grades and her withdrawn behavior was her struggling. The funeral was tough, of course. My daughter, then 8 years old, held my hand tightly throughout the entire service. She didn't cry much, which I attributed to her being young and not fully understanding the finality of death. After the initial wave of sympathy calls and casseroles subsided, life slowly started to return to normal. We had a big family reunion a month before her grandmother's passing, and the woman was relatively healthy then. She was maybe a bit slower, but her mind was sharp, and she enjoyed the time with all her children and grandchildren. That reunion became a key memory for all of us, a last hurrah. After the funeral, things felt different. The house seemed quieter, even with all of us still there sorting through belongings and making arrangements. I noticed my mother seemed particularly affected, spending hours looking at old photographs. I tried to help where I could, but mostly I felt useless. The whole situation felt surreal, like I was watching a movie about someone else's life. I focused on practical tasks, like helping to pack up her belongings for donation or distribution among family members. I felt a strong urge to hold on to items but knew I had to be practical and let things go. We all did, eventually. The kids seemed to handle it surprisingly well, at least on the surface. They asked questions about where their great-grandmother had gone and what happened when people died. I tried to answer honestly, but in a way they could understand. We talked about how she was old and tired and that she was no longer in pain. I reminded them of the good times we shared with her, like baking cookies and reading stories. I wanted them to remember her with fondness, not sadness. We all planted a rose bush in her memory. I thought the worst was over when we went back to our daily life. My daughter started having trouble sleeping a few weeks after the funeral. She would toss and turn, occasionally waking up in tears, claiming she had bad dreams. I chalked it up to grief and gave her extra hugs and bedtime stories. I bought her a new nightlight and a plush toy that belonged to her grandmother, hoping the familiar scent would comfort her. She seemed to appreciate the gestures, but the sleep problems persisted. Then came the clinginess. My daughter, always an independent child, suddenly couldn't bear to be away from me or my husband. She would follow us around the house, constantly asking questions and seeking reassurance. If we left the room, even for a minute, she would become visibly distressed. We tried to be patient and understanding, reasoning that she needed extra security during this difficult time. We tried to involve her in activities she used to enjoy. We took her to the park, played her favorite games, and read books together. She seemed to appreciate the effort, but her heart was not in it. She would go through the motions, but she lacked her usual enthusiasm. We felt helpless. We wanted to ease her pain, but we did not know how. Her sadness was palpable, and it affected our entire family. We knew she was grieving, but her reaction seemed excessive. I considered seeking professional help. I thought a therapist might be able to provide her with coping mechanisms. My husband was hesitant. He believed she just needed time and support from her family. We decided to wait a bit longer and see if things improved. I started spending extra time with her, trying to provide her with the comfort and attention she needed. I hoped this would make a difference, but I did not see any significant change. Her school performance started to decline. She used to be a bright, enthusiastic student, but now she struggled to focus in class and complete her homework. Her teacher called me, expressing concern about her lack of engagement and declining grades. I explained the situation with her grandmother and asked for some leniency. The biggest red flag, the one I completely missed, was her newfound obsession with perfection. My daughter, who used to be carefree and playful, suddenly became hyper-focused on getting everything exactly right. She would spend hours on a single drawing, erasing and redoing it until it met her impossible standards. Her toys had to be arranged in perfect order, her clothes had to be spotless, and her schoolwork had to be flawless. Any slight imperfection would trigger a meltdown. I should have seen it as a warning sign, but I was blind to it. I was so caught up in my own issues that I failed to recognize the distress signals my daughter was sending. I now understand that her pursuit of perfection was a way for her to control something in her life when everything else felt chaotic. She likely felt lost and powerless amidst the changes happening within our family. Striving for perfection provided a sense of order and achievement, albeit an unhealthy one. I regret not recognizing the underlying cause of her behavior sooner. I should have dug deeper and tried to understand what was truly going on with her. Instead, I unintentionally validated her harmful coping mechanism. Now, I am actively working to undo the damage and help her develop healthier ways to manage her emotions. I am learning to listen more attentively, validate her feelings, and encourage her to embrace imperfection. I noticed her fixation, but I attributed it to a desire to please. I thought she was trying to be good to compensate for the sadness she felt and to make us happy. I praised her efforts and encouraged her to keep up the good work, unknowingly reinforcing her unhealthy behavior. The breaking point came a few weeks ago. My daughter had been working on a school project, a diorama of the solar system. She had spent days meticulously crafting each planet, painting them with vibrant colors, and arranging them in their proper orbits. She was incredibly proud of her creation, and she couldn't wait to show it to her class. I watched her work on that project. I thought it was good. She planned every detail. I saw her get frustrated, but she kept going. I even helped her a little bit with the painting. I thought it was a good learning experience for her. She seemed to learn a lot about the planets. She told me facts I did not know. I hoped she would get a good grade. I remember hearing her scream. I ran outside immediately. I saw the diorama on the ground. The planets were everywhere. She was crying. I felt bad for her. All her hard work was gone. I tried to help her pick it up. She just kept crying. I did not know what to say. I felt angry that this happened to her. The morning she was supposed to present the diorama, disaster struck. As she was carrying it to the car, she tripped on the sidewalk, sending the diorama crashing to the ground. The planets scattered, the cardboard box ripped, and her hard work was destroyed. I rushed to her side, expecting her to be upset. But what I saw was beyond anything I could have imagined. My daughter completely lost it. She started screaming, crying, and hitting the ground. She was inconsolable. I tried to comfort her, but she pushed me away, yelling that it was all ruined, that she was a failure. I did not understand what caused her reaction. I asked her what was wrong, but she could not explain. She kept repeating the same phrases over and over. I tried to hold her, but she fought me. Her distress worried me. I had never seen her like this before. I felt helpless and scared. I did not know how to make it better. This went on for what felt like forever. Eventually, her energy faded, and she collapsed in my arms. I carried her to the car. I drove home slowly, carefully. I tried talking to her again in the car, but she would not respond. She stared out the window. When we got home, I helped her inside. I got her into bed and sat beside her until she fell asleep. I stayed there for a long time, watching her. I felt a deep sense of unease. I knew I needed to get her help. I started researching therapists that night. I contacted a few in the morning. I finally managed to get her inside and calm her down, but her outburst shook me to my core. I realized that something was seriously wrong, something beyond simple grief. I took her to a child psychologist, who diagnosed her with obsessive-compulsive disorder, triggered by the loss of her grandmother. The psychologist explained that my daughter's need for perfection was a way of coping with her grief and anxiety. She was trying to control her environment to compensate for the loss of control she felt over her life. The grandmother's death had disrupted her sense of security, and she was desperately trying to regain it by imposing order on everything around her. The doctor said that young children sometimes associate death with disorder, even chaos, and that the family reunion, while a happy memory, might have been confusing. My daughter was seeing her grandmother, someone who represented stability and routine, in a potentially weakened state. The juxtaposition of family celebration and her grandmother's frailty could have subconsciously contributed to her anxiety. The psychologist asked me about specific routines that the grandmother and daughter shared. I described their baking sessions, reading hours, and even the way the grandmother neatly organized her knitting supplies. I hadn't realized how deeply ingrained these routines were in my daughter's life, and how much they represented a sense of predictability and comfort. With the grandmother gone, those routines vanished, leaving a void that my daughter was desperately trying to fill with her own rigid rules and rituals. I felt terrible. I had been so focused on her sadness that I completely missed the underlying anxiety and the unhealthy coping mechanisms she had developed. I had unknowingly encouraged her obsession with perfection, thinking I was supporting her efforts. We started therapy, and it has been helping. My daughter is learning to manage her anxiety and to accept imperfections. We are working on establishing new routines and finding healthy ways for her to express her grief. She has good days and bad days, but she is slowly making progress. The reason I am posting here is because I want to warn other parents. Don't assume that grief only manifests as sadness. It can take many forms, and it can be easily mistaken for something else. Pay attention to your children's behavior, and don't dismiss any changes as just a phase. Seek professional help if you are concerned. I learned a valuable lesson, albeit the hard way. I will never again underestimate the complexity of a child's emotions, and I will always be more vigilant in recognizing the signs of underlying distress. My daughter's struggle has taught me the importance of empathy, communication, and seeking help when needed. It's a journey, but one I am committed to taking with her, every step of the way. I am still struggling with the guilt of not recognizing her OCD sooner. My husband assures me that I did my best with the information I had, and that dwelling on the past won't help anyone. He is right, of course, but it is hard to shake the feeling that I could have prevented her suffering if I had been more observant. I am also trying to be more open about my own feelings with my daughter. I want her to know that it's okay to be vulnerable and to ask for help. I share my own struggles with her, in an age-appropriate way, to show her that she is not alone and that it's normal to feel anxious or overwhelmed sometimes. One thing that has helped is involving my daughter in activities that promote creativity and self-expression. We have started painting together, and she seems to enjoy the freedom of experimenting with colors and textures without the pressure of perfection. We also started volunteering at an animal shelter, where she can connect with animals and learn about compassion and empathy. I am grateful for the support of my family and friends, who have been incredibly understanding and helpful throughout this difficult time. I am also grateful for the psychologist, who has provided invaluable guidance and support. And most of all, I am grateful for my daughter, who has taught me so much about resilience, courage, and the power of love. I realize now that the family reunion, while intended as a celebration, may have inadvertently heightened her anxiety. Seeing her grandmother, who was usually so vibrant and strong, in a weakened state could have been unsettling for her. The contrast between the festive atmosphere and her grandmother's declining health might have created a sense of cognitive dissonance, further contributing to her distress. We are taking things one day at a time, focusing on building a strong foundation of love, support, and understanding. I am committed to being there for my daughter, no matter what challenges we face. And I hope that by sharing my story, I can help other parents recognize the signs of childhood anxiety and seek help before it's too late. TIFU, but I am determined to learn from my mistake and to be the best mother I can be. The road ahead may be long and challenging, but I am confident that we will get through it together.